What is going on in here? Why is Liam recording in the morning? Where's Owen? Where's Kyle? What the hell is a psychedelic verb? We need an emergency meeting. BRB. Wow. As most of you know, Wizards of the Coast just released the deck list for the first set of Challenger decks, to the applause of all and to the ire of none that I have been able to find so far. Even people who have been really critical of Wizards of the Coast over the past few years are saying that this might be their best release in a very long time. Now, I couldn't get the gang together on such short notice, but Kyle was able to film a short video in response to today's news from his home between work and FNM. And after that, I will be briefly discussing my thoughts on the financial impact of this release. And now to our correspondent on the street, Kyle Ott.
Wow. What a day to be a Magic player. For the longest time, one of Wizards' biggest weaknesses as a consumer is a strong entry point into the product. Now, this has been something that I have talked about at length with a lot of other players in a couple of other videos, but one of the biggest things that has always struck me as a huge glaring flaw in Magic, as a game designer and as a player, is there's no entry-level product to get you interested in the competitive level of playing. There's nothing that says, hey, you can jump right from those kitchen table games that you're enjoying with your family and your friends into a competitive tournament, and these Challenger decks are it. $30 is a great price tag. It's not a $60, special event deck like they did for Modern. It's not even like a $30 Commander deck that's a specialized product. It's $30 for a tier 1-ish competitive standard deck, and that excites me so greatly. Clearly it does because I'm talking super fast, but let's slow it down a little bit. Before, if you were a new player, one of the ways, there was really no good way for you to jump in to FNMs or to competitive tournaments, right? Picture this conversation, because it's one that I've had many times as an experienced player. Your friends come out to an FNM, they're like, hey, we had a good time, but we're sick and tired of, losing. I'd love to start playing. What can I build with the cards that I've got? And it sucks to tell them, it's like, well, you've got some cards, but you're 200, 100, 300, 150, $80 away from a standard deck. And it sucks when you're already paying, $5, $10, $15 for an entrance fee. If you're new to this hobby, that's very off-putting. And now at a $30 price tag, Wizards has created an amazing product. So from a consumer standpoint, this is a huge move in the right direction. Wizards, I can't thank you enough. You did an amazing job with this idea. Moving forward too, the card selection is great. You've got things like Hazoret in a pre-constructed deck, Hazoret that's seeing Modern play, Chandra that's seeing Modern play. You've got great archetypes. You've got Approach. You've got Constrictor. You've got Vehicles. Red deck wins. These are all great decks, and more to the point, they're decks that new players can pick up and use almost immediately and feel competitive with. Oh my gosh, I love it. I love everything about this, everything that's just happened. Moving forward, I have one big concern. Wizards is notorious for making an amazing product and not doing enough print runs of it. And I'm really, really, really hoping that's not the case here. If I can get these decks for $30, if I can get them for MSRP, it is a great deal, and it is that $30 is the price this needs to be. However, and I say this with a big caveat here, if Wizards decides not to print enough of these and they start going for $60, $50, it's going to defeat the purpose of the product. If I was to rate the product as it is right now, I give it an A. It's awesome. I wasn't expecting them to throw a full playset of Glorybringer and Chandra and a full playset of Hazoret and a full playset of Fatal Pushes into every deck, but I'm very, very excited about the direction this is going. The only way I think this could not be a slam dunk for Wizards of the Coast and for the burgeoning Magic the Gathering community, for those new players who are so excited about going out and enjoying themselves, the only way this goes poorly is if Wizards doesn't print enough of them. But that's it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. This is a very quick video, but Liam and I wanted to get our thoughts out on this product immediately. That's why we're stitching it together from two different places. We didn't even have time to go see each other and record this like we would normally do. We wanted to talk about it right now. You can find links to the deck lists in the little doobly-doo below. I'm Kyle Ott from Magic Stew. Of course, huge shout out to my boy off camera, Liam Duffy. And have a wonderful day, folks. You the best. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the little button, little bell thingy, and you guys rock.
Thank you, Kyle. Sage and insightful as always. For my part, I'm probably going to be doing a lot of editing because I'm rambling this off as it's coming to me, as I'm looking at these deck lists and as I'm thinking about the financial impact that these decks are going to have. As a seller, which we are on eBay, CardSphere, and TCG Player, but also as someone who purchases cards to buy for decks. And backing it up just a second, I absolutely adore the fact that these decks are set up to mimic current meta decks. They're not set up to duplicate current meta decks, which means that it gives us room to improve upon them ourselves. So you buy that $30 deck, and if you happen to have an extra Chandra or two, or extra Hazarets, or more dual lands, or really anything that can be used to make those decks better, you have the ability to still customize them, tailor them to your needs and your situation. It's not just like the Versus decks where, okay, here's the deck, play them. Which is exactly what Melissa and I were doing with the Versus decks that we purchased. We play them together. We could probably do a little more with it, but we don't. They're not going to be a competitive Modern deck. They're not going to be competitive in any format. Whereas these Challenger decks can be. They can be competitive at your local game store, at your F&M games. They can be competitive on a higher level once customized and improved upon. I absolutely love that. So what are we getting for our $30? Well, we're getting between $85 and $95 worth of cards out of every single deck. Of course, that pricing is based on where you're buying it from. Different sources are going to be priced differently. TCG has a tendency to have a lot of people that try to undercut the others so that they can be the first one to be seen and purchased from. eBay is an enigma. So let's take a look at Hazoret Aggro, which is basically red deck wins. Hazoret Aggro, for a $30 deck, you're getting a Chandra and you're getting a Hazoret. The rest is almost exactly red deck wins. Of course, Hazoret and Chandra are in red deck wins, but my point is the rest is an exact duplicate. But you're getting about $90 worth of cards out of that. And I'd like to talk to you a little bit about that particular deck, because I believe very strongly that Hazoret and Chandra are both cards that can be very strong in other formats once they rotate out of Standard. The price is going to go down because of the fact that they are being printed in these decks that you can buy for $30. So if these decks can be purchased for $30, you can get both a Hazoret and a Chandra. Why would you pay $20 to $30 a piece for one Hazoret and one Chandra? You wouldn't. So the sellers know this. They're going to try to push all of their stock out as soon as they possibly can before these decks hit. Probably a good time to try to get them a little cheaper, but maybe wait. I don't really know. I've never really seen a deck like this make such an impact as what I think it's going to make. However, on the flip side, for those of us who might be looking at it going, okay, I have 8 Chandras here, just sitting here that I've been sitting on, what am I going to do with it? Should I sell before they plummet in price? I mean, that would make sense, right? But let's look at this compared to stocks. One of the main reasons that markets drop and plummet is because people panic. I'm sure that Rudy can do a much better job of explaining this particular part, but I'm going to give it a very, very basic shot. Over a period of time, no matter how far things plummet, they always go back up. And the people who are able to hold on long term tend to make the most money because of that commitment, in most cases. And I believe that these two cards, Hazoret and Chandra, are going to be an example of that. Yes, they are going to be reprinted like crazy in these decks. However, when these decks are no longer being printed and they've moved on to the next set of Challenger decks or whatever they decide to do after that, and after seeing this, I kind of hope that they do more Challenger decks because this is awesome. People who want to use these cards in Modern and other formats aren't going to have a cheap way like these decks to purchase them. This might take a few years. This might only take 1 year. It depends on the print run. Both Amonkhet and Kaladesh are rotating out in September. Now next year, if a whole bunch of people still have these decks and they're still selling these decks for $30 or even $40 or $50, it might take a while for the prices to go back up. But if 6 months from now people are selling these decks for 90 or 100 a piece, it's a good thing you held on to those cards. If 5 years from now, which is more likely, people are selling those cards, or these decks rather, for 100 or 50 or something like that, maybe even 200 or something crazy, it's a good thing you held on to those cards. And I really think that's going to be the case. I think that in the instances of Hazoret and Chandra, I believe that we want to hang on to those cards. Let's move on to Vehicle Rush, which has the most value so far out of all of these sets based on today's prices. We're going to owe that directly to the lands that they're packing in there. You've got Concealed Courtyard, Inspiring Vantage, Dragon Skull Summit. There are 4 Heart of Kirin's in there, which almost pays for the deck itself. Heart of Kirin's going to drop. With 4 per deck, Heart of Kirin is going to drop probably, I'm betting, to about $2, maybe less. If you have a ton of Heart of Kirin, yeah, that one we might want to sell off. I really don't see it having a tremendous impact on Modern or other formats in the near future. Once again, I could be mistaken. We don't know what's going to come out in the future. They might bring out vehicles that work very well with it. They might print cards that make that thing an absolute killer in some other formats. But right now, what I'm looking at the moment, I really truly believe that that card does not have a lot of life past Standard. And with these new decks, the price is going to drop. I would probably unload them unless you're playing them. Now let's move on to Counter Surge, which is basically Golgari Constrictor. I don't really have a lot to say about that one. For your $30 purchase, you're getting about an $85 deck, again, under current market prices. And I am, by the way, utilizing Channel Fireball for my average prices on this, which I find tends to be a little bit high compared to what I can actually buy the cards for. So we might be talking more like between 70 and 80 or 90. But again, it depends on where you're buying them from. I don't really have a lot to say about Golgari Constrictor. That is actually the deck that I'm playing right now in Standard, at least online. I think it's a great deck. There's definitely a lot of room for improvement on the one that they're printing for the Challenger deck set. As far as do we really want to buy or sell what we've got in there, the Walking Ballista is one of the cards that they're giving you one of. And that one is seeing play in other formats, so that one, once again, we probably want to hold on to it. That one could be the Wormcoil Engine of the future. So I'll leave it at that for for Counter Surge. So let's head over to Second Sun Control, which obviously is an approach deck. There are really only 3 cards that are worth more than $1 or $2 in this entire deck, and that is the Regal Caracal, Fumigate, and Irrigated Farmlands. All the cards together added up on Channel Fireball at about $80. Like Counter Surge, I really don't have a lot to say about this particular deck. A lot of it will be rotating out in September, but I really don't know that a lot of it is going to be seeing play in other formats. And having the least current value out of all of the other decks, I think it would be a very fun deck to play, and I think that it would be a very fun deck to improve upon. So definitely worth picking up, especially if you've thought about playing an approach deck. But from a financial standpoint, I really don't see this one doing much else. Are these decks going to be harmful for the market? Are they going to be harmful for the players? Are they going to be good for the market? Are they going to be good for the players? I feel like as far as market concerns go, I believe that they will be harmful for sellers like myself on those 3 aforementioned sites. However, over time, like I was saying earlier, some of these cards are going to pick back up. So I don't think that it's going to be financially devastating for anybody. Now, as far as players go, here's where it gets fun. Because a lot of people are saying, oh my gosh, these are such great intro decks. So for new players to play in a more competitive environment without having to sink several $100s into a collection, yes, absolutely. Not only that, but you've got players who are in a financial bind. You've got players who aren't able to go out and buy a new deck every time a set rotates. And these $30 decks are perfect for that. You spend $30, you get $90 worth of cards out of it. Maybe you spend another $20, $30, $40 at most, if that, to improve upon them, to be competitive at your local FNM, and to go out and have fun, and to sit at the kitchen table, and to dominate. And I love that. So thank you, Wizards. And thank you, everybody. Once again, this is Liam from Magic Stew. Stay tuned. We've got deck techs coming.